Everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today, we're off to see The Wizard, talking about Wicked for Good, directed by John Chu from a screenplay by Winnie Holtzman and Dana Fox. It sees Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo returning as Glinda and Elphaba, and it's the culmination finale of their story that started in Wicked, the last year's film. We also see the return of some of the other key characters, such as Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh, Marissa Node, in their respective roles that they played in the first film as well. So get ready to follow the yellow brick road as we travel to the Emerald City to talk about Wicked for Good. Wicked for Good is the sequel to last year's Wicked. I'm try not to spoil too much in today's episode for those who haven't had a chance to see it yet. Um, it was directed by John Chu, written by Winnie Holtzman and Dana Fox. We see Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo reprise the roles, leading the film as Glinda and Elphaba, along with Jonathan Bailey, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh, Ethan Slater, Marissa Node, and some other actors from the first film reprising their roles in this film as well. So this film is set, I believe, about 5 years after the events of the first film. The events in this film are in the timeline is taking place during the events of the original Wizard of Oz from the 1930s. So we are introduced to Dorothy in the film as well as some of the other iconic characters from that original story. In the film, we only see Dorothy's face for a very, very small sequence in one scene. Um, the rest of the film, we only see the back of her as well as the backs of some of the other major characters from that original film. And I believe the intention for that was mainly to show that this is ultimately, yes, it is Dorothy, it is the Wizard of Oz. We are in that time period, but this is still Glinda and Elphaba's story. So I think that was the intention for not really showing off Dorothy too much in the film. So we could focus on Glinda and Elphaba and kind of wrapping up their overall story and showing that this is still, in fact, about them, as opposed to some other characters. So in this film, some of the positives, like it had a lot of positives and some not as positives. Overall, I didn't have any problems with the film. I enjoyed it. The performances, similar to the first film, amazing. Ariana and Cynthia, outstanding. They didn't miss a beat from the first film. It's like they flowed right into this new film. And they were just amazing in the film. Definitely a highlight of the film, one of the best parts. As well as like all the other characters, I thought a lot of the main characters, especially like Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Jeff Goldblum, they all did great. The performances overall in the film definitely highlight the film, as well as like the visuals, even the music. One, I don't want to say negative aspect of the film for me personally, but like the first film, the songs in the first film were a lot more upbeat and like danceable, enjoyable, and this film had more of like those intense like um songs, slower songs, ballads even. So for me, that kind of hindered my experience for the film. I still enjoyed the film. Um, Nothing wrong with the film in that aspect, but just the types of the type of music that was in the first film compared to the second film was one thing I did prefer in the first film. This film also definitely had a darker tone, just because of where we are in the story. It makes sense that it is darker film compared to the first film. But a lot of people definitely um, brought that up that I've talked to who have seen the film, definitely brought that fact up. For a reason they might not have enjoyed it as much as the first film, because it is a lot darker compared to the lightheartedness of the first film. Also, the pacing for this film, a lot of people I've also talked to said, and I didn't know, like I've watched the film 2 or 3 times now, and especially the first time I watched it, I didn't really realize, like I didn't think of it while I was watching it, but after the fact, when I talked to people who brought this up, I went back in my mind and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Because the first film, I believe the runtime is around 2.5 hours. This film is a little over 2 hours. So it's about 25, 30 minutes shorter than the first film, but it does feel just as long, if not longer than the first film, which isn't really a good thing for this film. So I've never seen the live action stage show of Wicked, so I don't know exactly how close they kept it to that show. Obviously for film, maybe they added some stuff, maybe they took some stuff away, because film and stage is a lot different. So I'm not exactly sure how close it was story wise, compared to each one, but it definitely did have some pacing issues, I think, and also like a personal note for me, which didn't necessarily hinder the film in a negative way, but I'm a huge fan of the Scarecrow as an actor. Like the Scarecrow is someone I want to play, one of my dream roles. So we didn't get to see too much of the Scarecrow and pretty much any of the Scarecrow until the very end of the movie. The scene where, the iconic scene where you see the four, Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, Lion, talking to the wizard, when he tells them to bring back the broomstick of the Wicked Witch of the West. We see the back of them, and the Tin Man does have his song in the film, so we see a good amount of him. But the Scarecrow, we don't get to really see at all until the very end of the film. So for me personally, I kind of wish we got to see some more of him. At least for the stage show, I don't know how much of the Scarecrow is in that. But just on a personal level, because I am such a huge fan of the Scarecrow, I would have liked to see some more of him. Not that that really affected negatively my experience of the overall film. It just would have been nice to see more of that character because I like that character so much. So that definitely would have helped make the film, I guess, a little more enjoyable. But overall, I definitely did think the film had a lot going for it. The music was, even though it was a lot darker in tone, the music was still great. The performances of the songs and acting were all around very strong, similar to the first film. The style of the films visually and what we saw, it definitely felt very cohesive to the first film, which was great. So it definitely had a lot of positives going for it. It did have some negatives that honestly didn't. The negatives for the film honestly didn't affect it too much in a negative way. It was still a great film, fun to watch. Definitely something that you want to watch on the big screen, especially for the music. So the negatives definitely didn't affect it too much in a way where you would be like, don't watch it. It's still definitely a movie you want to watch. It just did have some little key aspects that, if some things were done a little different, maybe would have even made it even that much of a better experience on top of the good experience that already was for what we got. So going forward, I know that I don't know if it was John Chu specifically who directed the two films or one of the like executives at Universal. Um, they do want to expand the Wicked franchise. They are interested in doing more films, especially after the like pre-sales and how Wicked for Good has been performing, even in just its opening weekend. So they do want to do more sooner rather than later, which is great. I know that um, they're interested in potentially doing things that don't have anything to do with like Blend and Alpha, so we probably wouldn't be seeing Ariana and Symphony um, in those roles again, at least not in the same way we saw them in these two films, if we even see them again in the roles. Um, but I know that I believe it was about 5 years time wise within the story between the two films. So there's still a lot that they could explore. There's a lot that they were saying they want to, a lot of potential for stories that they could tell. Um, because they were saying that they wanted, there's a lot that happened even still before Dorothy arrives in Oz. So there's a lot that they do want to tell within this time period. So anything they do in the future with future movies would probably be in some ways, I guess, technically like prequels to this film, since it would be set most likely before this film. But it's still interesting to see. I'm excited for anything they decide to do with the franchise going forward. I thought that these two films were great. So especially if they have a lot of the same creative minds working to develop any future films within this universe, I think it'll be very positive and hopefully they'll have a lot of success with it moving forward. And so I'm just excited to see what they decide to do. Within the next few years, hopefully, to build this wicked world that they have started. And with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode. So, Wicked for Good, overall, definitely a film that I would recommend. It was one of the probably most anticipated films of 2025. Maybe just behind Avatar, Fire and Ash, which is set for next month, which we will have an episode about talking about a few episodes from now once that is released next month. I'm also very excited for that. For me personally, Wicked was probably my second most anticipated film of the year after Avatar. So I definitely wasn't disappointed with the film. There were some small things with the film, like I said before, that I kind of wish were done a little differently. Some characters that we got to see maybe a little more, but overall, those negative things didn't really impact it too much or enough where it made the film not enjoyable to watch. So it's definitely a film I recommend. Definitely worth the wait. I had a lot of fun with it, and I definitely think that it's worth the watch. And they definitely did a lot of great things with the film. Definitely a lot of positives with it. So I'd be very interested to hear what you think. If you enjoyed the film compared to the first film, a lot of people I talked to did say that even though they did enjoy this film, the first film overall was a better film. Which I do agree with. I think the first film overall was better. It had a lot more going for it. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Like today's episode, comment on social media, we're on Instagram, X, and thank you for supporting this show. And I will see you all next time.